Our lesson today will be about countable and uncountable nouns. The objectives of our lesson: first, we have to identify the difference between countable and uncountable nouns. Then, use some and any in context correctly. Use much and many with countable and uncountable nouns. At last, we have to write sentences using some, any, a few, a little, much, and many. For countable nouns, what do you mean by countable nouns? It means things I can count. I can say 3 oranges, 2 oranges means I can count them. This is the meaning of countable nouns. Countable nouns, if we talk about singular, we'll add a before the noun or say 1 orange, for example. In the plural, we add s to this noun. It means it's countable. Example, a potato or 1 potato. And we can add s at the end to make it plural, potatoes. This is the meaning of countable noun, that we can describe one thing of it, or we can make plural of it adding s at the end. This is the meaning of countable nouns. What about uncountable nouns? Uncountable nouns means things I can't count. We love to read books. Where is the noun in this sentence? Books. Is it countable or uncountable? If you find s at the end, it means plural, so it means we can count it because we have plural of the word. It means it's countable noun. Books. We can say 1 book, a book, or books. Means it's countable. What is the noun in this sentence? Please pass the salt. Of course, salt is the noun. Is it countable or uncountable? From the picture, can you count the salt in the picture? Of course, it's difficult to count, so it's uncountable noun. So now we identify the difference between countable and uncountable nouns. Now we are going to use some and any in context correctly. We need some chairs. The noun here, chairs. Is it countable or uncountable? Again, if you have s at the end means plural, it means it's countable noun. We need some chairs. There is a mango. I have an egg. Singular countable means nouns in singular form. That's why we use a or an before them. A mango, an egg. There are some apples, or I have some eggs. Plural countable. In this case, we use some before them. Plural countable nouns. We use some with them. There is some sugar. He has some bread. Here we have plural uncountable nouns. We can say it's plural because we can't add s to them because they are uncountable. So we use some with them. From this slide, you can imagine when do we use some with countable or uncountable nouns? Some apples, some eggs, some sugar, some bread. Here are countable nouns and here are uncountable nouns. From this slide, you can say as conclusion that we use some with countable and uncountable nouns in the affirmative sentence. Affirmative sentence means positive sentence, saying it happens. Yes, it happens. Affirmative sentence. In 2 cases, if we have countable or uncountable nouns and want to say that we have some of them, we can use some with both countable and uncountable nouns, but only in affirmative sentence. There is those banana in the recipe. How many bananas in this dish or this recipe? A banana, singular countable noun. There is those ice cream in the fridge. How many ice cream do you have here? So we say there is some ice cream in the fridge. Uncountable noun. I need dots water to wash my hands. Water, is it countable or uncountable? Can we say a water? Of course not, because it's uncountable. So what can we say here? Yes, I need some water to wash my hands. Because it's uncountable noun, we can say a or an. We are choosing from up, a, an, or some. I'd like some juice. Unspecified quantity. We don't know exactly the amount of juice he needs, so he says, I'd like some juice. I'd like a glass of juice. Now he uses container to talk about juice, uncountable noun, and he wants to tell you the amount of juice he wants, so he adds this word, a glass of juice. In this case, it becomes specified quantity. You know exactly the quantity of juice he wants, a glass of juice. Some comes with affirmative sentences, as we said. Example, there is some money. Any comes in negative and interrogative sentences. What do you mean by interrogative sentences? Means questions. Example, is there any money? This is the question. No, there isn't. Or complete answer, there isn't any money. So any comes in the question and in negative sentence. There isn't any money. So again, some comes in affirmative sentence, any comes in negative and interrogative sentence, like the example, is there any money? This is question or interrogative sentence. There isn't any money, this is negative sentence. So as conclusion, you can imagine again, or tell yourself, when do we use some and any? Let's practice now this exercise. Use some or any. I need those time to study. Is it affirmative, negative, or question to use some or any? Yes, of course, it's affirmative, so we use some. I need some time to study. There is those cheese. Affirmative, negative, or question? Of course, if it is affirmative, we use some. If it is question or negative, we use any. So we say there is some cheese because it's affirmative sentence. There aren't those horses in the field. Negative sentence, so of course we use any. As conclusion, we use any with countable and uncountable nouns in the questions and negative sentences. Before we said we use some with affirmative sentences, and now we say any, we use it with questions and negative sentences. Let's practice more. Choose some or any. There isn't those sugar in my coffee. Some or any. If you have isn't means negative sentence. Yes, so we have to use any. I come back to this exercise to answer it again. Yes, so the first one, there isn't any sugar in my coffee. There are affirmative sentence. We don't have negative or question, so we say there are some oranges in the fridge. Number 3, there aren't negative, so there aren't any tomatoes on the table. There is dots oil in the kitchen. Affirmative sentence, so we say there is some oil in the kitchen. Last sentence, there is some orange juice because we have affirmative sentence. If we say, is there dots orange juice? You will say, is there any orange juice in the fridge, for example, because it's question. Okay, again, we repeat, we use some with affirmative sentence and we use any with negative and interrogative sentence or questions. Interrogative means question. Now we finish with the first two objectives. Identify the difference between countable and uncountable nouns. Use some and any in context correctly. And now we're going to use my and many with countable and uncountable nouns. How much or how many? We use how much with uncountable nouns, and we use how many with countable nouns. Let's see examples. How much or how many? How much or how many cars are there? Cars, can we count it or not? Of course, we can say 1 car, 2 cars, 3 cars, so we can count it. In this case, we use how many cars are there? There are 6 cars in the picture. How much or how many sugar is there? Sugar, countable or uncountable? Of course, sugar uncountable. We can say sugars. We can add s at the end. We can plural, so it's uncountable. In this case, what do we use? Yes, we use how much. How much sugar is there? There are 3 spoons of sugar. He uses containers to talk about sugar. 3 spoons of sugar. Again, how much or how many pictures are there? Yes, of course, how many pictures, because we can count it. Look at the picture. How many pictures? There are 6 pictures. In this case, we use how many with countable nouns. How much or how many milk is there? Milk, countable or uncountable? Of course, it's uncountable noun. In this case, we ask with how much. How much milk is there? And the answer? There are 2 boxes of milk or 2 cartons of milk, okay? Conclusion. We use many with countable nouns and much with uncountable nouns. In this link, you have an exercise to answer, and I do it with you now to check your answers with me. Fill in the gaps with how much or how many. How many students are there in your classroom? Because students countable, we use how many. How many strawberries are in your plate? How much water do you need for your dough? How much popcorn is in the box? Because we have water and popcorn. Uncountable nouns, we use how much. Also with milk. How much milk would you like with your cookies? How many carrots do you need for your salad? How much juice can you drink in a day? How much soda are you going to drink? How many peppers do we need for the pasta? How much salt we have to add to the pasta? So we use how much with uncountable nouns like salt, and we use how many with countable nouns like peppers. So this is only to practice more, to understand more. So we finish with the first 3 objectives. Identify the difference between countable and uncountable nouns. Use some and any in context correctly. Use much and many with countable and uncountable nouns. And we have to write sentences using some and any, a few, a little, much, and many. And this is an exercise you have to do yourselves as plenary, and I'll check your writing after we finish. What's the difference between a few and a little? This is only the small note we have here. I've got a few books. I've got a little cheese. Look at these 2 sentences and tell me the difference between them. When do we use a few? And when do we use a little? With countable or uncountable nouns? Let's see. Again, I've got a few books. I've got a little cheese. This sentence, we have box countable noun. In this case, we use a few with countable nouns. But cheese is uncountable noun. In this case, we say a little cheese. So we use a few and a little if we talk about something which you don't have enough of it. You have little amount of it. If it is countable noun, we say a few. If it is uncountable noun, you say a little. A few books, a little cheese. Okay. As conclusion, again, we use a few with countable nouns and a little with uncountable nouns. To practice more, here is another link to do this exercise. And I'm checking the answers with you. A little water, because water uncountable. A few apples, because apples countable. A few biscuits, a little flour, a few onions, a few sandwiches, a few eggs, a little sugar. So again, a few with countable nouns like eggs, a little with uncountable nouns like sugar. Okay? Now you can write your own sentences using some, any, a few, a little, many, and much in sentences. For example, I have a few strawberries in the fridge. I have a little cheese in the fridge. I have many books in my bag. I have much water in my bottle, for example. I have some plates in the kitchen. I don't have any fruits in the kitchen. Like this, okay? I'm using my own sentence and you can write your own sentences too. That's all for today's class. It means we finished all the objectives until the last one. Write sentence using some, any, a few, and little, much, and many. I hope you like that, and bye.